no, it's not Christmas Day, and no, it's not Boxing Day, it's somewhere in the middle. I didn't obviously do this on Christmas Day, far too much family, wine, presents and just generally relaxing going on. So I thought I would do this now because a number of things have turned up at the studio, and I'm just about to start doing some work in there. So I thought, well, before I do, I'd just do this. Before I do that though, obviously if you're a System-8 fan, Christmas came early because on the 19th of December Roland released the long-awaited Juno 106 sounds, and from the user groups that I've seen, loads of you are loading them up and saying how fab they were. Just as a point of fact, I mean, I don't know whether people realise this, obviously George Michael died on Christmas Day this year, and Faith probably being his biggest album of the albums that he released, the whole of Faith, apart from I think 2 parts of it, was actually on a Juno 106. Something I didn't know, but it came up in one of the user groups over Christmas that the Juno 106 was the stock keyboard for that album. There you go. So now everybody who has a System-8 now has a Juno 106. But that was released, and then the day after, on the 20th of December, they then released all the plug-outs for the System-8. So not only have you now got the Juno 106 sounds on your System-8, you've also got all the original plug-outs that were released for the System-1 now on there. So it now looks like the System-8 is stacking up to be a sizable contender. While we've all been banging on about the System-8, one of the things I should say is that if you own a Jupiter 80, don't overlook the Jupiter 80, because that is an awesome piece of kit. Really is. And the System-8 is very flexible, it's very in your face, there's lots of knobs and faders on it. I really get that because I love playing around with the knobs and faders on the System-8 to change the sound parameters. But you know, if you delve into the screen menus on the Jupiter, believe me, that beastie is far more powerful. But we are where we are, and plus the fact that the System-8 is half the price of a Jupiter, of course. You know, we'll carry on. The astute amongst you will notice that I am wearing my obligatory Star Wars Christmas t-shirt. I've been to see Rogue One. It is fantastic. If you like Star Wars, I'm sure you'll love it. If you don't like Star Wars, I'm sure you'll hate it. But anyway, that's a side point. So that was the System-8. The other thing I saw this week, which was really interesting. Now, if you've seen any of my blogs or you followed me, you know that I have been after a Roland A110 for quite a while. Now, for those of you who don't know, an A110 is, how would I put it, it's a monitoring tool. It allows you to monitor the MIDI signals that are actually going up and down on specific channels. And the reason I'm after one of these units, one or maybe 2 of these units, is because, again, as you know, I run a lot of legacy tech in the studio that I own, and quite often when you do something, trying to debug where the problem is in the MIDI is very, very difficult, trying to work out where the MIDI signal is failing. So anyway, I've been after one for ages. They're like gold dust, they really are like gold dust. Anyway, I saw someone, it was on Christmas Eve, posted an A110 for sale in the US, Japanese voltage, so it's 100 volts, and they wanted nearly, they wanted $1,000, it was $999. Be serious, is my comment. Yes, the unit is rare, but it ain't $1,000 rare. Plus the fact it's 110 volts, and I've just got rid of an A880, which was 100 volts Japanese spec, because it's utter pain in the arse running something on 100. 110 volts is okay, because US to UK voltages, there seems to be a lot more step-down transformers, but 100 to 240 seems to be a bit more of an issue. And all the step-down transformers I've tried with that are quite noisy. I don't know why, but there you go. So I gave that a miss, obviously, but I still am on the hunt for at least one A110 or more A110s, should the opportunity arise, but not $1,000. Anyway, So the reason I thought, well, I needed to sort of talk to camera was purely because I said before Christmas that I was going to change my MIDI stack. Now, when you run legacy tech in a studio, it's all MIDI. You know, the whole sort of studio is built around MIDI, and you know there have been some fairly fantastic MIDI implementations. And many months ago, I had a sort of real rant about manufacturers not supporting legacy tech. You know, I know everything's gone USB now, and all the new keyboards are USB, and you know, I don't really want to go there, but you know, if you're like me and you've got older keyboards, and you shouldn't be throwing your older keyboards away because they have, I still firmly believe the older keyboards have a place in your studio. They may be harder to program, but the sounds typically are very, very rich very quickly. And you know, if you're trying to recreate a sound from the 70s or 80s or maybe 90s, to be honest, if you get there on the legacy tech for a few £100 or a few $100, rather than having to go and spend, as I said, on the sort of a Jupiter or Cronus and then sit and program the sound in or sample the sound in to play that way. So, you know, if you know how the sound was originally created, it was created on a D50 or it was created on a DX7 or it was created on a Kurzweil, you know, you can go and buy that piece of tech and have a go at creating those sounds relatively easily. Pound to a penny, somebody's already done it. There is already a sysx file with those sounds on it, so it's ready made and ready to go. You just need to tweak it. Anyway, that said, I've been meaning to update my MIDI implementation because I've just not been happy with it. And one of the reasons I've not been happy with it is because at the heart of my MIDI implementation is this. Okay, so this is a Mark of the Unicorn MIDI Express XT. Right. I've had this for about 2 years now. Okay, I updated I had prior to this an M audio unit which wasn't 18/8 out, it was only 4 in 4 out, and I needed more sockets for MIDI. So there you go, you can see on the outside there, 18/8 out. Okay, so I've been hunting around, I've done a lot of work on the internet looking at reviews and what have you, and I'd come up with that this was probably one of the better units that still seemed to be in support for the sending MIDI from the computer to the device. And as I said, I've had this about 2 years. I bought it second hand when I bought it. However, I have to be honest and say I've never been really able to get on top with this. For whatever reason, and I don't know whether it's me or whether it's the unit, I've never really been able to get it to work the way I wanted it to work. Now that's a problem. The problem is that there aren't very many of these style units on the market anymore. And that was what my rant was primarily about many months ago, was the fact there ain't many of these style units on the market. And you're not supporting the sort of the musician or the studio that has lots of legacy tech. And again, you know, I don't understand why you wouldn't have legacy tech in your studio, because it's cheap. You know, that's the bottom line with this stuff. It's cheap. You know, if you're a musician or, you know, you've not got much money to spend, spending £100 on something that's cheap but good, you know, is going to go far farther than spending a lot of money on something that's very expensive. You know, you can build up sound reinforcement relatively quickly by buying units, you know, the D series, the D10, D110s. You know, you could buy, I mean, I saw a Korg T3R unit the other day for, you know, £100. I saw an M1R unit the other day for about £150. So, you know, these things are not expensive, but they give you a hell of a lot of keyboard for a rack mount unit. And if you're, again, if your space is limited or anything like that, or you're doing computer music, you know, these things are ideal, but you still need to control them, and this is how you do it. So, this didn't work for me. So this is going on eBay this afternoon. Okay, that's going. It's taken out of the studio, it's going. And it's being replaced with this. Okay, So this is called the iConnect Mio. Now I did mention this many months back that I was going to buy one of these, and it's just taken a hell of a long time for me to actually get around to putting my hand in my pocket. I'm buying it anyway. So this is a 10 in, 10 out. So it's got 2 more sockets than this, and I know somebody who has bought one of these and has absolutely raved about it. And I've seen it in action, and I think it's pretty damn good, and I think it probably will suit me far better. So the way it works is on the back there, rather than that one where you've got bank of 8, this was in pairs, boom, 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 and there's 7 pairs on the back and 3 pairs on the front. So hopefully it will allow you to either plug keyboards in if you bring them into the studio quite quickly, or have the static plugins at the back. Obviously USB, but the other thing this one brings to the table, which is interesting, it brings a LAN socket to the table, which means that you can connect this to your home or studio network and control it that way. Now, a lot of the interfaces, a lot of the big audio interfaces are going LAN. You know, if you look at the sort of the top end, the high end Focusrite stuff, and that's all LAN based now. So, you know, there's obviously a reason why you do that. Well, there is a reason why you do that, because you can operate LANs at very high speeds. But this is also designed to be operated by 2 computers. Now, I have no idea how that works, but you can actually have 2 computers operating this device at any point in time, which is really interesting. So it really is operating truly as a router. Anyway, that has arrived, and that's going into the studio this afternoon. I'm going to start building the MIDI enclosure for the studio this afternoon. So into the MIDI enclosure will be one of those. Okay. Also into the MIDI enclosure will be one of these, and this is actually, finding this was probably the reason why I decided to change the MIDI enclosure. Let me explain why. So, if you are operating a home studio, one of the things I've always recommended is having a patch bay. Okay, you have all your instruments going into sockets on your patch bay, and then you can either have static routing, which is where you have permanent routes from one instrument to somewhere else, or you can have dynamic routing where you use patch cords on the other side to change the routing of the instrument signal. I use my patch bay a hell of a lot because I have 2 effects units that are external to the keyboards, and therefore you can route the signal from the keyboard through the effects unit and then on to the mixer. Okay, it works really, really well for me. Alternatively, what I can also do is change the signal from the mixer. Instead of going to the mixer, it can go to the audio inputs for the computer, and I can record directly, but actually put the effects on the signal through if I want to. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, quite simply, there are 2 schools of thought. There's one school of thought that says put your sound down dry into your DAW, and then put the effects onto the sound once you've got it in the DAW. And I'm cool with that. There's a second school of thought that says, actually, what I want is I want it to go onto the DAW the same way as I'm hearing it when I'm playing it. In which case, what you would then do is you'd route the effects onto that signal, so the sound that goes into your DAW is the sound you are hearing. And if that's the sound you're actually trying to capture, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. Now, I probably have said that, and there's a whole bunch of engineers out there going, no! But honestly, quite a lot of musicians know the sound they want, and it's easier to put the sound directly down rather than try and tinker with it afterwards, because, I mean, I've been in the same situation with this when I've been working with friends. They've got a sound, they know how to create the sound, then we take the dry signal into the DAW, and then we can't quite recreate the same sound, and we end up recording the damn thing again with the effects on, and you know, that's the sound they're after. But either way, so that's the patch panel. Well, this is the same idea. So this is a MIDI patch panel. So what this allows me to do is, this has got 22 ports on it, so that's enough for 11 units, 11 keyboards, 11 effect units, 11 whatever you want. And effectively what you do is on the back side of this you plug your keyboards in, there are all the MIDI sockets, and on the front side of this you effectively patch them to where you want them to go. So what there will be is there will be 3 of these in my MIDI setup. One of those, so 20 of the 22 of these, well actually it's probably not 20, it'll be 14 of the 22 of these will go to the back of the new computer interface. Another 16 of them will go to the back of my A880, and then the rest of them will go off to various MIDI legacy pieces of keyboard, rack mount units, etc. that live within my rig. That therefore then allows me to very quickly change the routing of MIDI from one unit to another unit if I want to, or assign it to a different channel on the the Mio. That's how the idea is going to work. And I've been looking for something like this for a very long time. Doesn't mean it hasn't existed, it just means I haven't been able to find it. It's taken me a good year to find it, and then I find once I get it, the company's down in Poole that makes this stuff. So that's where it's come from. It's come from a company called Sigmax in Poole. Okay, they make these things. They're not cheap. You know, bear in mind that this is, I suppose it's fairly simple tech, isn't it? Probably very manually intensive in terms of building it because it's of what it is. It's not made on a massive corporate scale. But they, these come in at about 80, let's say £90 including shipping a pop. Okay, but that is the MIDI component that I've been looking for, and now I've got it. I've decided to make the changes. The other thing I've done is my studio is rather static. I don't tend to move it around, although I have moved it twice this year. But it is rather static in terms of I don't move things around. But I'm still a firm believer in every piece of equipment should have a home somewhere. And by that I mean somewhere where it can live and it can be locked away if I needed to, or moved. And that's why when I moved my studio last time around it was so damn easy, because we literally just put the covers on to each one of the rack units and then picked it up, loosened the handles, and off we went. Now, what I tend to do with each one of these, this is just a 6U enclosure made of plastic, what do they call it, polycarb, relatively strong, can definitely take the weight of me if I sit on it. I'm not sure if I jump on it, but it can take the weight of me if I sit on it, so it's a relatively strong unit. And it will keep two things. Number one, it keeps all the dust away if you want to from these units. Number two, it makes sure that you haven't got wires and cables and units lying around all over the place, which tends to happen with us musicians because we can't be asked to put things away properly. So if you do it right in the first place, it becomes far easier. So that's what's going to happen today. I'm going to do all that today, and then hopefully next week you'll see the fruits of my labours. Anyway, not a lot left to say apart from probably to wish you all a happy new year. Again, I'd say I won't be doing this on New Year's Day, far too drunk and hungover I suspect New Year's Day to do this. So it probably will be 2 weeks before I surface again. So happy new year, make sure it's a good one.